as I was saying earlier, we usually have a lot more people. It's actually, the last one we did, the 5, was really nice, because we basically just went quickly over this, and then we were able to have time to talk about anything you wanted to talk about, rather than being real strict instruction. It makes it nice. So. Okay, go Dan, you're on.
So anyway, we're live. It's not Memorex. My name is Dan. I'm the weekend guy. We're not sure what I do, but here we are. This is Dave Taylor. He is our service director. He is in charge of everything. It's all his fault. Between the two of us, we have, I don't know, way over 60 years experience. Way over 60 years. And the whole point of this is to share with you our experiences so that we can help you in your first few years of RV. We're not here to sell you anything, even though we will probably recommend a spring tune-up to everybody, and I'm sure there's other dealers that do this. This is all about getting your RV ready in the spring, and like Dave said, we're going to hit the high spots, and this is all generated by your questions. He's already asked everything 10 times, so it's kind of up to you guys. If you have questions, just jump right in there.
I got a short memory.
you know what to do. Anyway, just ask questions. We're a little concerned because my job is predicated. The only reason they keep me here is for these seminars. So if you guys don't show up, I'm going to have to go file for Social Security.
We'll commit to coming every time.
Excellent.
So this is mostly about him because he lives in the shop. He knows everything. I'm more of a techie guy, so I'm going to talk about part of the batteries, and then I'm going to turn it over to him for the maintenance and that. If you've heard my spiel on batteries too many times, just let me know. But basically, in the RV industry, we use 2 different kinds of batteries. If you have a trailer or a fifth wheel, you've got to tow it with something, and that something, that Dodge pickup, Chevy pickup, has to be started. So we have starter batteries. If you have a motorhome, obviously, we have chassis starter batteries in the motorhome. Starting batteries are designed with a lot of skinny little plates squished together and a large surface areas so they can discharge rapidly and then recharge fairly rapidly. They do not function well on a deep cycle basis, and I was reading some statistics recently that if you discharge a chassis battery more than 60% one time, you've lost 1/3 of its capability. So we do not want to use that chassis battery as a deep discharging battery. The deep cycle batteries that I have on display here have much fewer plates, much bigger, they're robust, they're designed to be able to take the sulfuric acid and lead on the plate and do the chemical reaction to lead sulfate and electrons. They're designed to be able to deep cycle, to deplate, and then basically when you charge a battery, you're electroplating that lead back onto that plate. Deep cycle batteries are designed to be able to cycle over and over again without damage to the plate. So we need to make sure that when you buy a starter battery, it's a starter battery, and when you buy deep cycle batteries, you get true deep cycle. Now, there's also a marine deep cycle, which is kind of a hybrid halfway between, and you're not really getting your money. If you want a deep cycle, you're really not getting your money's worth out of a marine engine or battery. There are there's several kinds of batteries in the deep cycle market, in the starter market, but we use the flooded cell that everybody's experienced forever, and we also use the AGM, the absorbed glass mat battery. The flooded cell, this battery will last 2 to 3 years. That's its typical lifetime. And it'll have a couple hundred, 250 duty cycles, discharge, recharge, discharge, recharge. The AGMs will about double that, but they're twice as much money. They're going to be 350 to 500 duty cycles, discharging, recharging. They're a much tougher battery. The flooded cell you need to maintain, make sure there's plenty of water in each cell. The AGMs are sealed. There's no maintenance, just wipe the top off once a year. And they're a much tougher battery in that if you're using an inverter, dry camping, and solar charging to extend it, we typically use the AGM because it can handle the rougher duty much better. With that, everybody's kind of staring at me like, okay.
Batteries are confusing. I'm still trying to figure them out.
Okay. Yes.
You said rougher usage. What were you referring to?
Well, when you run an inverter, you're demanding a lot more current over a long period of time. So the flooded cell is it's not going to handle that heavy discharge over and over and over again like the AGMs do. It's just not as heavy duty a deep cycle. Now, we sell a 6-volt flooded battery, the 6-volt golf cart battery they call it. That's a pretty tough battery, but then they last, if they're maintained, 3 to 4 years. You know, we've heard stories of, 5, 6 years, but the average is 3 to 4 years. And they're a good battery, high maintenance battery. If you're out dry camping, you need to maintain that battery, check the water level every couple of weeks. The AGM, unfortunately, twice as much money, but it has comparable performance. It's slightly better than the flooded cell, but its maintenance is basically zero, and it will last a couple times as long, even though it's twice as much money. What you get out of it is a better performing battery that you don't have to mess with.
And the 6-volt, can you get the same amp hours?
Well, the 6 volts, it's.
And you have to get 4 of them in place of 2 of them.
Well, not really. This battery right here is rated at 220 amp hours at 6 volts. 2 of these batteries together make 220 amp hours.
Oh,
That's 12 volts.
These are just 6 volt?
These are just 6 volt.
Oh, okay.
They are just like the flooded cell golf cart battery.
Okay.
These batteries, the 12 volts, this one is 80 amp hours, so 2 of these is 160 amp hours, and it's just how you hook them together, whether you do a parallel or you do a series. And the 6 volt batteries, much better capacity than the 12 volt.
Okay.
So you
2 6s is better than 2 12s.
Yeah. But you'd have to have the room for it.
Yeah, they're 2
Exactly.
inches taller.
They're tall, yeah.
Yeah.
Another option we have with the AGM, since they're sealed, is we can put them anywhere. If you want batteries added, we don't have to build a big cover for them because there's no gassing. So we can put them in a bay
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
without having to build a big box and vet it and do all that.
I have a question on charging. The charging routine that's been explained is to, when it's not being used, is to have AC connected for the converter to charge it.
What
Or
coach do
like-
you have?
Base Star Sport,
What year?
2017.
So, and the reason I asked that is around 2010-ish, I think, we moved from the old ferrule resonant taper charge converters that if you left them plug in, the potential
They
would
would-
climb to 17, 18 volts, and then
Right.
batteries would end up fat like me and no good. The the newer stuff, the smart chargers are 2 to 3 steps. You have the volt where it'll just throw it out as much current as it can. And then the float, which is where it just puts out enough current that the battery will take. And then I got this wrong, the equalize is the one where just...
Equalizes.
Yeah, and it just kind of puts out a small amount of current.
Right.
So with yours, you can plug it in indefinitely, because when the back EMF of the battery reaches a certain potential, that converter just shuts down.
Okay, that's not the
That's
case.
not what we were told by the service department. In fact, I had to replace my batteries because one exploded or one split. Because
Well,
I
if
had
it split, it was probably not an AGM, it was probably a liquid filled.
It was,
That's right. It was a
yeah,
It was a
liquid.
liquid filled, and have you ever checked the fluid in it?
Yes, been adding water.
Because usually what happens is with the wet cell like that is, as soon as you get water below one plate, even if it's only a quarter of an inch, that battery's bad.
right.
So when your converter kicks on, it's going to notice that one battery is being bad. So it's going to throw most of its charge into one battery. So at some point, I'm going to say, it probably while you were checking it, one of those cells probably got below the plate.
Right, it did.
And once it does that, the battery's basically done. So the one that split more than likely was the known battery to the converter, and the converter wouldn't shut down because it kept reading this battery saying, this battery kept saying, hold on, I'm not charged.
Right.
So the converter just kept putting power, power, power.
Right.
Well, we were told by the service department that when I bought the new batteries, that to keep them charged for 3 days or so,
Okay.
and then unplug them for 3 to 4 weeks and let it drop down to.
If you don't want to
50%.
continue to check if you don't want to mess with checking your fluid levels very often, yes. However, if you go out every week or two and make sure your batteries are always topped and never let it get below that lead plate, then you can leave it plugged in all the time. Most people don't. Most people say, oh yeah, I'm going to check them every 2 weeks. They go out in 6 months, and by then it's too late. So what we tell people is with AG, you can leave it plugged in all the time. Your maintenance schedule then has to increase
Okay,
to adapt to that.
okay.
The smart charger, it appears, and I looked at the plot of it, and it turns on for it turns on for like 15 minutes. It kind of spikes over the long period of time. But it appears that at least taking that plot of the initial charge and then the equalizing and then the maintenance or whatever.
Float.
The float, yeah, the float. It appears that that's still overcharging a wet cell.
You should never see more than 14.6 to 14.8 on that charger. My concern is, and part of the reason we do this is, and the main reason he's here is because he is the definitive source. This is how it is.
Okay.
If my feeling is you're being held hostage by your converter. You're concerned that your
Right.
converter
Yes.
is not doing its job.
Yes.
Right.
So the easy way to do that is when, for a few days, you leave it plugged in and you watch the voltage. If you have a good meter and you see that thing going much above 14 volts, like into 15 or 15 and a half, 16, then that tells us that the processor in that converter is not working right.
Yes.
Because when you're in a equalizer or a float, not a bulk, but just
Right.
lower current, you shouldn't be seeing, with the new ones, you shouldn't be seeing more than about 14 and a half volts.
Yeah, and we haven't.
Yeah, and that's normal. And that's actually that's actually a fake voltage. It's a true voltage to a point. The full battery is 12.6 volts.
Right.
So what you're noticing is what they call a top charge. If you were to unplug it and test it with a meter, it would say 14.5, 13.9. But as soon as you would start a furnace or anything that would draw some electricity, it would drop to 12.6 almost instantly. So a lot of that is we get people that call, hey, my 12-volt battery, something's wrong because my converter says, it's reading 13.9. And And you have to explain to them, no, 13.9's okay. And I have to give them that whole speed.
For a period
Right.
of time while it's charging.
Right.
Or maybe right after it's charged.
As long
But then it's gonna float down to.
A little bit.
12.6, 12.7.
I
Right.
just happened to done this, I have 6 batteries in mine, 6 volt, and so I have them in a parallel series. I left my charger on for like 2 days, and it was at 14.6 when I came out and looked at it. I turned off, unplugged my converter, and it immediately, within 15 seconds or so, started dropping down.
Right.
You know, it went almost immediately down to like 13.1, and then it settled out at 12.8, then 12.7, and it sat. I have a really good ZAMP voltage meter, and it sat 12.8, 12.7, and it would kind of jump back and forth right on the line, and my fluke meter was almost identical to it. But that's how they level out,
Right.
and they sit there for days like that. And that's what you should see.
Okay.
Now, if
Now, the ones that you're talking about, are they wet cell?
mine are, yeah.
Yours are wet
Yeah,
cell?
I can't afford $400 a battery.
Right. So is there, well, you probably have a different converter than what the Star has on it.
Yeah, it's a
Right.
little bit different, but not probably much different. I know what you have, so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a little bit bigger.
Uh,
But it's a
Good.
smart
Okay,
converter.
let me ask it this way. It's a smart charger,
Smart charger.
but would you feel comfortable leaving, with wet cells, leaving the smart charger on all the time?
With mine, yes, absolutely.
Mine too,
Yeah.
my big fifth wheel.
Okay, well, yeah, that's where we're a little confused
So
with
my-
the information that we've got.
Well,
about-
like I say, it depends on who you talk to, it depends on how you're gonna store it, it depends on how you're gonna, if you're gonna maintain them, you can leave it plugged in all the time. The problem is,
You know, I mean, without maintenance.
Oh, without maintenance,
'Cause
no,
I've
if there's a
had
wet
a
cell, no.
system that did not, that used wet cells, they were deep cycle,
Right.
and the smart charger that I had, I was left on all the time.
Right.
And it never overcharged it and eliminated the liquids, the
Yeah, well,
acid.
here's-
well, it's going to though, it's going to eliminate some of the liquids. Because a charging battery is warm, and the water in that is going to evaporate. So
Yeah,
if you,
maybe by evaporation, right?
Right.
Not by overcharge,
but not by overcharging.
yeah.
So,
So the converter in the Star, then,
In your base star, let me answer it like this. If you have an anomaly, it's because you have a problem inside one of your batteries, not the converter. If, like Dave was saying, you've got an internal short or some kind of a failure in one of the
Right.
batteries, it will demand more
yeah,
current.
right, and it'll keep on charging.
Yeah, now, the converters they're a good converter, but it's reading this as a lower potential, so it's charging.
Right.
And this is a vicious cycle. So if you have fully charged batteries, mine sat there for days, and they leveled out at 14.6. And if I take it out of the
Well,
system,
but you took the converter off of it.
then I took it off and they went down.
They went down,
But,
right, yeah.
but in a charge system, you have, let's say, what is a full battery? 12.6?
12.6.
12.6,
So-
12.7.
That is 12.6, and it's like you and I standing here pushing on each other. The battery's pushing back at what they call a back electromotive force, 12.6 volts. You, being the converter, muscular, you're pushing on me at 14.6.
Right.
You have to have at least 1 volt above this
To charge, right.
to actually have enough force to push
To drive the current through.
the reaction back to sulfuric acid and lead.
Right.
So on good 3-step and 2-step chargers, we typically see around 14.6 volts. But
Right.
like he said, that's not really a true voltage of the battery. And with the potential, with the converter turned on, you can never read that. And that's why I did this. I was curious, because if I have 6 batteries, I have 2 choices if I want to know what my condition of my batteries are. So I did a really good charge on it, and I let them sit there, and then I started watching my voltage. Now, if I'm at 12.7, 9, 12.8, and that's a good full charge, I go back out the next day and it's 12.1, then that's 11.9. I'm losing current when I should absolutely not. So that tells me one of my batteries at least has a small problem. So then I have to unhook all of I use copper bars. And I have to unhook them all and isolate the batteries, then I test each battery.
Right.
But thank God all my batteries stayed up. They stayed at the 12.79, 12.81. They stayed that way. So that tells me all 6 of my batteries are good.
So you'd be confident with the converter that's in the star,
Absolutely, that's a good,
leaving it on all the time.
that's a progressive
But-
dynamic.
but
16
then-
Checking
amp.
it
But
every
then
week,
checking
checking
it
the liquid.
Every couple
water.
weeks.
Every
After
couple of
you
weeks
do
for
it, you'll
water.
get to know about how often you need to.
Okay.
If you check it in 2 weeks and there's no difference, and you check it in 3 weeks and you notice there's a difference, then you know every 3 weeks on the calendar, check batteries.
I see, okay.
Because believe it or not, batteries we see live the longest, you know where they come out of? Full-timer coaches, where people actually live in full-time. They're
Right.
plugged in all the time.
Right.
These batteries are just up and down, up and down.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
water pumps and furnaces and everything running all the time.
Yeah, well,
The
this one
people that
sits
keep
on-
them plugged in and use them, that maintain the water, we see them last 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah,
It's the people that use it 6, 7 times a year,
Yeah.
and then they go home, plug it in, don't check the batteries. We replace them every 12 to 24
so the key
months.
to it then is
Use it.
The liquid.
Living in it,
is
full time.
living in it.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Sounds like
Okay,
one month.
but if that's not possible, then the other way is to leave it on all the time,
But check it.
but check
That's what it
Yeah.
is.
check the water level.
See,
Okay,
there's,
all right, that's
I
bottom
just lived in
line.
mine a year and a half here. We just bought our house 7 months ago in Peoria. We sold the house, wanted to buy a house. We did that once before, and trying to buy and sell at the same time is a wreck. So we sold the house, moved out, lived out at Premier for a year and a half, and I checked my batteries every 2 weeks, gave them a couple drips, and those batteries are like brand new.
Yeah.
And we push
Okay.
it hard.
so
Okay, yeah, we just need a routine
Yeah,
that
it
that
works.
can be worked on.
Yeah.
the last little caveat here, and this is really a good discussion, and I appreciate this, but
I hope it's
We're
not-
probably boring
I hope it's
everybody
not
else.
boring everybody else.
well, it's a very good battery discussion. So the last little caveat is, the difference between my 6 batteries and your batteries is, I totally isolated mine from the power cable,
Yes,
Yeah.
about
Yes.
this big, that goes to the coach.
to the coach.
So
Right,
it is just 6 batteries sitting in a tray.
right,
And so, where even if you have your battery disconnect turned off, which you shouldn't if you're plugged in,
That's right.
you're going to have, even on the base star, you're going to have
You
a couple
can draw.
memories and things like
Yes.
that,
yeah.
that will drop it down
Yeah.
slowly.
Yes.
But it will be enough to, you'll have a chemical reaction going on, you'll have the converter step in, and it's an in and out thing. It's not as true a picture as what I'm
Right.
just
Right.
playing
Right.
with. I just
Right,
did it
yeah.
because,
Because you're not drawing anything from it.
right.
Is there-
But on a coach, you
But
have
as soon
these
as I
3
hook it back
things
up,
that,
I'm
you got
in the
3
same
things that are
situation
drawing,
you are.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
That helps.
And my last thing on batteries before we move on,
yeah,
if you do have 2 batteries or 4 batteries and one goes bad, what that means is you're buying 2 or 4 batteries.
That's right.
yeah.
That's right.
Don't let anybody tell you just replace the one
Just do
battery.
one, yeah.
Because then instantly your converter's gonna see a brand new battery, and that one that was at 90% is now considered a bad battery in your converter, and it's gonna throw all the charge into the bad battery, so you're
Yeah.
gonna play this replace a battery every 6 months forever.
Yeah.
And it's hard to explain. We get a lot of people in with 4 or 6 batteries in the bigger Newmars and King Airs, and it's hard to explain to them that yes, you have a bad battery, but by the way, your other 4 to 6 are bad also,
Right.
because we refuse to put in one battery because we're doing you a disservice by doing
Right.
that.
Okay.
All right, good. Thank you.
Okay, anybody, any more questions on batteries?
Can I drag this out a little bit? I got the original equipment, deep cell battery, and so I checked the fluids. I had trouble checking them, seeing that meniscus at the proper level. We know it's good, not good to have it go low. Is it better to have it overfilled than underfilled? Is there a disadvantage to overfilling?
Well, if it overfills and starts to boil, of course, the
Spill.
fluid can come out the top and rust whatever it's under, corrode. So, that's kind of a rough one. What you can do, hard to see because it's in a bad location.
Right.
If there's enough room, they make autofills.
I got
where
an
you can-
autofill, and there's a couple cells that I can't get to.
Couple cells. Usually what we suggest to people is to buy an AGM that you don't have to mess with.
Well, that's the next step, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that the engineers didn't really, they knew there had to be batteries go in there, but they didn't ever really think anybody would ever need to look at them.
Yeah.
And it can be a pain.
It's hard to see that meniscus and knowing exactly where it's at and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So I keep it a little bit overfull rather than,
A little
not up into the stem, but
Yeah, no, a little overfull is fine. We see
Yeah,
people
okay.
just pour it until it is flush with the top, and
Before
that's
we
too
go
much.
to you, I just want to say that the opposite of that is low.
Right.
As soon as that lead sees the atmosphere, it oxidizes.
Yeah.
And so that part of the plate will never be
Yeah.
functional again.
so I understand that. I don't really
Overfill,
like
not
that.
underfill.
Yeah.
so going to the AGM, with the system in the Star, then there would be no maintenance at all? Is that what you're
The
saying?
only maintenance is to go out there every month or two and take a damp rag and wipe the dust off the top. Because you can have parasitic draws through dust and moisture between the two top, just a paper towel, just something to keep the dust off.
Oh, to keep a resistance, I mean, to keep a connect,
A draw from happening between
a
power and
draw
ground.
between the two.
You could have a little sweat, or in your case, a little road grime, and it'll actually cause a current trail from one post to the other. So every few months, you need to wipe it off.
And the charger in the Star would handle the AGM
Yep.
properly?
Yeah, that smart charger won't really know the difference. These have a slightly higher resistance to them, but you have a 60 amp, maybe an 80. I'm not, how big is your
Converter.
car?
It's,
To
31.
Yeah, you got a 60 amp converter, that's more than enough for two of those. But these things are like $450 a piece. So I look you in the eye and I say, how long are you gonna keep this coach?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if
And you
you're gonna
need two
do
of
this,
them then, because
Yeah.
they're 6 volt.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a thou, but
Yeah.
Well, plus
Once
the
you do
labor to
it-
change them over, it's not a lot, but there's
Right.
labor.
yeah. That's-
Okay,
Thanks.
It's kind of a comfort thing is what they are.
Yeah. We
You
like
don't have to mess with them, you just go.
Before we get into poop, which is, it's in his contract to talk
Well, I'm
about
doing the
poop.
exterior first.
Okay, do you want to talk about this at all? You don't care?
Oh, I can.
Okay.
Hydrometer. If you do have a wet cell, grab a hydrometer. Another thing that'll tell you is even if your water's all the same level, you can have one bad cell. This will tell you what cell is bad. If you do have a bad cell, the battery is bad. 25 years ago, we used to always try to, we'd stick them on 2x4s and charge the heck out of them and try to save batteries. Anymore, we know we can't do it. So, Okay.
Any other questions on batteries?
moving on from batteries, once we leave it, we're not coming back. All right. You want me to do the inspect the exterior?
Yeah.
Okay, so if anybody has one of these, we can kind of, The main thing you want to do inspecting the exterior is look for seals, seal damage, cracks in seals, slide seals, roof seals, anything that looks like it's holding out water probably is. If it's not holding out water, then water's getting in. And probably our biggest customer pay item in the RV industry is water intrusion, either walls, floors, ceilings. So if you do store it during the winter, and you go into it in the spring, open the door and take a big smell. Because water in an RV has a definite smell. And it smells somewhere between mothballs. I mean, it's a smell. Something's going to be different. Once you smell that, there is water in there somewhere. The next step is to find it. So even if you don't smell it, I say go in and go through every cabinet, every overhead cabinet, fill the roof, look, check for water, the closets, in behind drawers, look on the floors, around slide rooms, feel the carpet, feel anywhere for moisture. My fifth wheel is we still own it. If anybody's looking for a 36-foot long fifth wheel, I have one for sale. However, after the snow, I went in it, checked it, and I was very pleased that it just smelled good, looked good, like nothing ever happened. So you have to inspect your seals.
How do you know you found all the seals that need to be inspected?
Well,
And what do you look for?
there's a secret to that. A lot of it's just visual around your bay doors and stuff. I carry in my little toolbox in my fifth wheel a thing of Parbon, clear Parbon. So when I'm camping or just out there playing around checking, if I find a little cracking in the seal, if it's just a little bit, I can take this, squirt a little. It's pretty sticky stuff. You put a little of this over the crack, wet your finger, because if you don't, it's going to be on your finger and not the seal. And less is more. If you put a big old gob of this, it's going to look ugly. So just a little over the crack, touch it up. If you're on the roof, we have roof sealants, lap sealants, self-leveling. You're going to clean your cracks with a little alcohol, or better yet, Acrosol. It's what we use. And again, thanks, man. I could get out of this chair today.
No, it's all right.
This is Kent Acrosol. It's an auto body degreaser. Clean the area with some alcohol or this, and then just put a little over the cracks. It's self-leveling. You want to make sure it's dry. The best thing to do is we have a lot of people that come in and we do free roof and side seal inspections. And a lot of people bring them in about every 6 months. And what we'll do is we'll send a guy up there, he'll take pictures and come down and say, hey, everything looks great, see us in 6 months. Or you got 2 hours worth of roof work that needs done, or you got a couple windows that look a little iffy. We prefer not to wait until you have a leak. We get a lot of people will say, a couple hours worth of work on your roof probably needs to be looked at. And the first thing they say is, well, we'll worry about it when it starts leaking. Well, once that water's in there, it's too late. We can usually get it dried. That we're going to charge you for the time to dry it, take stuff down to look at it. It's just better to stop it before it gets there. So we do free roof and side inspections. We don't charge for it. Come in. We do ask that you call and make an appointment so that if not everybody, I think my first seminar about 4 years ago, we had about 70 people, and I told everybody we did free roof inspections and walked away. And Monday morning, about 68 of them showed up out in front of service, and I went, oh wow, I better make a note to tell everybody to make an appointment. So, but we'll do that for free. We do that if you purchase from us. If you haven't, it doesn't matter to us. We'll inspect it. That doesn't guarantee we're going to see everything. We do a roof inspection and we might see 2 hours worth, but there's a little hole over in this little piece of seal we didn't see. And the guy comes back 3 weeks later and is mad because we didn't see it. Water can get in the weirdest places. So we do our best to help you, but if you don't look at it, nobody's helping you. I mean, it's just, Very important. And like I say, smell. We can take a trade-in in, and the first thing we'll do is walk in the entry door and go, okay, we have training classes up here where we train our own technicians. We hire young kids that have the right attitude and aptitude to do this kind of stuff. We train them through our own school. And that's the first thing we do is we'll find one and we'll go in it and we'll say, okay, we know it's in here, find it. And usually within about a half hour, they'll come out and say, yeah, the slide rule floor is dragging, it's all mushy, and it's in there. We've had them come out and say, nope, there's no wet problems in here. Well, I know there is, so I'll send somebody else in. And eventually we'll find it.
Yeah.
And then Sells is mad because I want a couple $1,000 to fix it. But, yeah, he's just chomping at the bit to say something. Go. It's up to you now.
Sorry. So anyway, my little portion of this, we are promoting this lap sealant, not because we sell it, but
Most
they-
RV places do sell that.
A lot of places, yes. Everybody does. All the RV dealers do. The reason that we are promoting specific products is there's a chemical they put in these. It's called a carrier solvent. This carrier solvent keeps this putty liquid so it can be caulked out. When it comes out, then it evaporates. These carrier solvents are designed to etch into the material they are sealing to get a good bond. Well, if you love Jerry's like I do, and you go down there and Dad has a sale on the sealer for $1.97 instead of $12, I'll buy a case of it just because I want it. The problem is the carrier solvent in that DAP sealant will react with the rubber, and it will actually eat into the rubber, and it'll pass through, and I think you were telling me this, it actually will break down the adhesive of the rubber material.
Yeah, it'll actually bubble up and look all gooey.
Yeah.
So my point is, excuse me, if you have a roof inspector and you don't want to pay his guys $1,000, you come down here and we tell you how to do it and sell you the right product. It isn't that we're trying to make money off of you for what we want to sell you. It's because this stuff will not damage the fiberglass or rubber or, we have butyl and all
And
sorts.
that could be used on all the seals then?
No,
Or-
just roof.
This is on a
Oh,
flat
that's
surface.
just roof, and this is side seals.
Yeah.
This is, do you have some Proflex there, or is that?
Yeah. This is the vertical surface.
This is basically just almost like a big tube of this.
Oh.
The reason I tout Carbon so much is it's been around for 32 years I've been doing this, and I don't know of another brand that's like this. So Carbon is just kind of my go-to in my toolbox. Once you open one of these,
Yeah,
It's
that
done.
was my next question. Once you open them, is the solvent gonna release?
Yeah, it'll last
the
a
lap
week.
sealant, well, the lap sealant's good for a long time.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
For the roof.
Yeah. This stuff
Yeah, I mean
will
the
dry
solvent
out.
in it,
Yeah, the
Big-
stuff that's left in it will be fine.
and it's not gonna escape them? Because typically solvents will. They'll,
After a year, maybe. If we ever use a half a tube of that, we have them laying all over the shop. 5 months later, it's still good.
okay.
We just cut off the end a little more and it works right out. This stuff, you use it within a week,
It's gone.
half of it's dried up. So that's why just a little quick one for, this is what we use if we say, hey, your whole coach needs side seals, we're gonna grab 4 or 5 tubes of this and we're gonna go to town and seal it. But everybody in the RV industry who has an RV usually has something that they can put a lid on.
Yeah.
And now just make sure when you put it in your toolbox, you don't throw your pliers in there someday and poke a hole in the side. Because when it goes all over the bottom of your toolbox and you're trying to get your sockets and everything out of this stuff, it's hard. So, yeah, if this was called Carl's Sealant, that's what I'd go with. Carbon's been around for years. the number one thing you never do, I don't care what campfire you're around, when somebody says, oh, I just use silicone. Just look at them and say, excellent, good. And then buy the right stuff. You don't have to buy it from us. Buy
And,
the right stuff.
and what's the problem with silicone?
Silicone is, silicone, he has a whole story about silicone. You want to go over your whole,
Well, maybe not the whole thing.
okay.
So there's two issues. It's the carrier solvent, obviously, is an issue with silicone. It's acetic acid, and I love the smell of it, but it's not good for, I mean, it's designed to etch into. And the other thing is, what he wants me to talk about is, silicone is a polar molecule, which means that one side of the molecule is like a magnet, it's positive, the other side is negative. And if you read all of the technical data, if you had two pieces of metal and you put silicone between it, put it together as an adhesive, you'd have to grind it off one of the pieces of metal, and it would repel itself from the other piece. So when I was a youngster in this, doing this, back in the 70s, we had stick and tin trailers, and the silicone would stick to the aluminum window frame and repel itself from the aluminum skin, and the water would just wick right in behind it. And back in the day where, yeah, the tires weren't stone anymore, but they were, this is a long time ago. And it took us a while to figure that out. So it's a polar molecule. The only thing that it works well on in our industry is plastic on plastic, because plastic has no potential. Yeah, it's an insulator.
Metals do.
Yeah.
What we find is a lot of people will use it, and then we can just take a razor knife and just trim around the aluminum, and then you grab the end of it, and it just pulls
peels
off
right
in
off.
one big old long,
Yeah.
which
So
means
this
it's
is
never
non-polar
attached to
then?
it. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So-
And this is gooey, so you
That's
always
good.
want to put it on and lick your finger, or a little alcohol in a spray bottle, spray on your finger and smooth it in. If not, you're going to go through a bunch of alcohol and paper towels keeping it off
Yeah.
your fingers. It's
So you
definitely
lick your
sticky.
finger before or after you do
I
it?
know.
Well, I've seen technicians keep doing it. They'll lick it and do it, and they'll lick it and do it, and I keep telling them, someday your liver's going to hate you.
Yeah.
So most of the technicians will use alcohol and a rubber glove, but I still use my finger. It doesn't.
So the last thing I'm going to talk about, or do you want to talk about it?
No, patch kit. Everybody should have
So,
one.
Part of the maintenance of the exterior rubber roof is, now I know that I'm probably the only guy that's ever done it, that's driven under a tree and scuffed my roof. And these membranes, for the most part, are a form of rubber. And if you ever played with a rubber band and stretch it, and all of a sudden you notice it's got little holes in it. So if you drag a branch across the top of your roof, it's got some little scuff marks and holes. What you need to do is get some of this and clean it, and then put some of this ethylene polydimorphic rubber butyl sealant on it. If you get a puncture, you're under a tree and the wind blows and a branch falls and breaks, comes right down through the bedroom, and you wake up in the morning and there's a branch about a foot from your head. No, not that bad. Let's say,
We've seen them.
yeah, I've
We've seen
seen
it
that.
just
yes.
recently after the snow.
We've had people bring in their coaches with a branch
Through the floor.
this far from the bed. And they woke up in the morning and there it was. So anyway, I digress. If you have a tear or something that has not punctured the deck, you can use this. This has sticky on the back. You clean it real good, push it back together, push it down, and you take a sock or something and really work it in, and then you take this and you go around it and seal it. That's a good patch, and you can save yourself a bunch of money. If that branch that falls down penetrates the decking, call your insurance company, call me. Because it's gonna be $5,000 to $8,000. You cannot repair
The
that
decking,
structural
yeah.
without putting a whole new roof on it. But that's why you have insurance.
But a patch kit's good.
Farmers, of course, because we've seen a thing or two.
That's true. I love those commercials. Yeah, you never need a patch kit till you need it.
Yeah.
We sell them here. And I always tell people it's never gonna happen, it's usually never gonna happen in your driveway. It's gonna happen in the worst place in the world where there's not an RV dealer, not an RV sales place. So,
And you clean it with the,
Aquasol,
Aquasol.
and if not, just a little alcohol. And I mean, if it's an emergency, you could use a little soap and water.
sure it's dry.
Do whatever you can. But this stuff here, when you go to put it on, you'd be ready to put it. There's no second chance. Once it touches, that's where it's gonna sit. So, it's not, you know, it's not like I'll see if it'll fit here and then pull it back up. 'Cause as soon as it touches, it's this molecular bonding that just, it's there. Okay, you wanna go with inspect the interior? I kinda went over that with the, new batteries. Oh, always a good time to put new batteries if your smoke detectors and CO detectors aren't hardwired into the electric. Check your batteries. It's a good time to check your fire extinguisher. Good time to do your safety stuff. Along with safety is your tires. Tires have a date code on them, a no-dot date code that'll tell you what week of what year they're built. And 5 years is kind of the industry standard. Now, I tout that he's the big tire, this is his talk. But last Memorial Day, heading to the coast on my 6-year-old tires, made my fifth wheel, and made it almost to Bonita before one of them unwound, and luckily just unwound, wrapped around the axle, smoked a lot, and Les Schwab's on 11 came and fixed it. However, I did exactly what I'm not supposed to, and that's running more than 5 years. 5 years is about max, and which is amazing to me, because when I was growing up, my grandfather reran tires on everything until they were sparking at night, because that was all just metal running. But for some reason, I don't know if, I'm not into conspiracies, but for some reason, tires aren't like they used to be. So 5 years. We see a lot of people come in with 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old tires that have torn the whole bottoms out of the motor holes. And usually that tire starts to tear apart, and that great big chunk of rubber, I've seen them come up through trailers and actually tear the bottom of the refrigerators out to where the food was coming out the bottom. And it gets expensive. So tires and bearing packs. Bearing packs you should do every year to 2 years, depending on how often you use it.
on a Class A?
No, not so much on a Class A. Yours may even have sealed front bearings on that. Some of those have front sealed.
100,000
lifetime,
miles on the
100,000
fronts for
miles.
years and years. What kind of a coach do you have?
We just got a trailer.
What was it? I looked out there and saw it the other day. Wasn't it a Jayco or a
Springdale.
Springdale?
Bearings.
So, yeah, just tires.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's go back to the bearings. 100,000 on the Star,
Yeah, the
And
Ford
then-
chassis,
they-
100,000 miles on that front bearing.
100,000, and then you replace the bearing or you
Replace.
repack?
Replace.
You
They're a
replace.
push in, push out. They call them a lifetime bearing. Apparently, lifetime to them is 100,000 miles.
Okay. And back to the tires, the covers on the tires, does that help any?
I don't like them. I actually, if you're going to get them, make some that don't cover the whole tire and get white. I know black would look really cool on that Ventana right there, but all you've done is put a black surface up against a black surface, covered the whole top of it, so now the sun's cooking, your tires are like in this big oven. So if you want tire covers, the best thing you can do is get on YouTube. There's guys that show how to make these really cool tire covers out of 1/4-inch plywood, and they paint them white, and they just kind of rest up against, and you can, usually the ladies paint flowers or something, something. Make them look nice. I'm not fond of tire covers. I think they actually breed problems. I would love for you to go out and buy some from us. That's why I say we're not here to sell you.
Is it basically the UV that attacks
The UV and the heat.
and the heat?
Well, the thing that makes a tire fail is it sits in one place and the cords start to separate because you're not exercising
Right.
that tire. And if it sits in one place for more than 2 years, it's done. Because you get these flat spots from the cord separation. And it's just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, you can even feel that. if you-
Absolutely.
After a week or two,
Yeah.
sitting in one place.
Yeah.
You know, people that go to Arizona and sit in the same spot for 2 or 3 or 4 months during the winter, if the sun hits one side, I can see putting some white ones on that side. Or if you have it in your house and they hit this side really bad all summer long, put something. But even my fifth wheel, I just got little pieces of Luan 1/8" wall paneling out of an RV. I set up against it
Set
just
up against it, yeah.
because they're only good for 5 years anyways, realistically. And I'll tell you what, if you want to see what happens, go on YouTube and type in RV tire blowout. It happens fast and a lot of it's not pretty,
Yeah,
especially on the front end.
yeah.
I try to, in the winter when my coach is stored, I try to exercise it every month. Take it out, exercise the slides and everything, generators and all that stuff. But when it's parked, because I don't like the idea of flat spots on the tires, I park with the jack stand.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can.
And that, I think,
Manufacturers recommend that.
yeah,
And not to neglect the trailer people, that's actually, you can put your stabilizers and jacks down, get a little bit of that load off the springs and the tires, it wouldn't hurt one bit. And as far as we're talking about that,
I'm gonna draw a picture too while you're,
okay, you need to explain how often you need to pack the bearings in a trailer.
well, that's what I'm gonna do right now.
Oh, okay. While he's drawing that picture, the one thing I want to mention about the interior before we move on is in the spring when you get in your coach and you're smelling moisture and that, the people that are mostly successful are the ones that use these dehumidifiers. And I'm holding the one he likes up because I'm trying to be nice to him.
Boy, that'd be a first.
Yeah, I like this one because I'm old school, but basically what you need to do is, a lot of people, they will say, I keep my coach heated in the winter. And the problem is you have aluminum windows and the wall gets cold. So you have nice, warm, moist air inside and cold air outside. That nice, warm air hits the frame of the window, condenses, and now you've got moisture. So you either need to stop putting heat in the coach, or you need to put in some form of dehumidifier to get that moisture down to like less than 10%, so that it doesn't eat on the walls and cause issues. It's all
How
back
about
to,
an electrically run dehumidifier?
I'm sorry,
Electric dehumidifier?
worthless. Where's the water go?
Well, it goes into a retention.
Well-
If you get a nice one, yeah. they're
Yeah,
great.
those are beautiful, but
Don't
they
buy a
sell
$30
those.
one off. Don't buy one like for a gun safe. If you're gonna go buy one, go buy the $500 one that has the 2-gallon retention drum.
It's a refrigeration unit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you can dump it every week or two.
But people sell a little electric one that's just got a little heat element in it. But
Yeah, no.
it doesn't, those air warmers, whatever they're, don't do anything to get the moisture out of the system. So yeah, if you got the money, those are the best. We use those. One year we had a fifth wheel where we just had so much problem with the parquet floor coming up. We used to strip the floor and we put the refrigerant type dehumidifiers in there. And then we'd get that bucket full about once a week and pitch a gallon out. A gallon of water. That's a lot of water.
Well, there's a
Rotting
lot
your
of
house.
water that collects in those dry air in the bottom of those things.
This one,
That one, yeah.
if you'd want one in the bedroom, one in the bathroom, and one in the main salon. and you put down an old cookie sheet so that the slime doesn't get out. And then you replace the stuff every few weeks. And it's just salt, it's potassium salt.
Now I'm gonna show everybody why these are better. Because you don't have to have a cookie sheet. These are what I have. They're a little more.
So that's a desiccant problem.
I just hang that little baby up. I can drive around with it hanging in there. I don't have to worry about slopping anywhere. And after a month or two, I take it, throw it right in the garbage can, and hang another one up. So that's why I like
The
these.
moisture collects in the bottom portion?
Yeah, this will be completely full of moisture at the bottom, and these will almost be all gone.
So
Plus they
how many do
smell
you
good.
use in your fifth wheel? Got several of those?
When I'm living in it, I have 2 in it. When I'm just storing it out back, I have 1. And I just checked it yesterday. I was saying I checked after the big snowstorm, and I've got, about a quarter of thing of moisture in there.
I've been using those for a couple of years now, and they smell good, they're easy to use. I'll go 3, 4 weeks, a month or so with nothing, then all of a sudden it'll fill up.
It'll be full. Yeah, that's the way mine will be. Mine will be like, oh, it looks good, and then the next week it's full.
But they're really nice, and just pitch it.
But my grandfather, he used the dries air, and at least once a year, he'd take it off to exercise it or go do something and forget he had that on the kitchen table, and it was all over the place. And then he's pouring the beads in, and about 3,000 of them go everywhere else. And I know dries air is gonna call me someday and threaten me. Quit saying that. But I like the other ones.
So what's your retort to that, because you're old school?
I have no retort. The
And
only issue is, this is really cheap, and
these aren't that bad.
How much are they? Like one of those?
Well, don't buy them here. The Walmart has them, I don't know, there's,
Amazon has them, they got 3 packs at Amazon.
yeah, for 6 or 7 or 8 bucks.
Yeah, they're not
Okay.
bad.
That where we get them is Home Depot.
Yeah,
Place that rhymes with Home Depot
right.
sells them for, I think they're $6.95 for 3.
Okay.
But if you need 6, 7 for a year, you're looking at $14. That's pretty cheap,
Yeah.
pretty reasonable.
no, I don't think Marty's gonna be too upset, because I don't think that those keep our business afloat.
No, I'm pretty sure. Okay, what do you want to talk about next, Dan?
Well, we've pretty much blown the chassis thing apart, but you were gonna talk about the trailer carry
bearings.
pack.
Barracks,
Okay.
yes.
We got into,
The reason we say every year in a trailer, we get people that come in and they've blown out hubs, and they say, well, we've only gone on 3 trips in 3 years, so they gotta be good. This is a bearing. I didn't pass art class, so this is
I can see that.
okay. What, you can see I didn't pass, or it's a bearing?
I like you.
So, you have these roller bearings. So, they're going round and round and round when you drive, and they have this grease on them, and that's great. Best thing you can do is exercise it, get that grease moving. What people don't realize is when you're sitting next to your house for 9 months, the wind is rocking that trailer, or rocking that motorhome, and this bearing that normally would go round and round, even though when we pre-tighten this bearing, we back it off just enough so they're not super tight, this roller bearing, front and back, can roll back and forth. It's when you have this round bearing scooting sideways on the race. And eventually that grease will become less and less in between, and you have a solid surface with the bearing going this way instead of this way. So just that 9 months of just a ever so slight rocking back and forth, if that bearing's sitting right straight down, it can make just a hair of a little indent right there. So in
Groovy,
turn,
man.
when you take it down the road, you have 30 of these bearings coming around and hitting this little bitty concave, and each of those bearings is going clunk, 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 clunk.
Yeah.
Never hear it till that bearing decides to either break, or it starts eating the race brakes, or it starts eating the bearings up. And usually that happens within a couple miles. Usually there'll be a okay until one of those bearings decides to disintegrate, and then it takes the rest out. And the next thing you know, you see somebody's tire going beside you, and you're like, well, whose is that? Because it happens.
And it's your
So it doesn't, yeah. So it doesn't really matter on miles. It's just something good to have. In most places, we do it. There's a tire place across the street, other dealerships. Most places have a bearing pack special, $100 an axle plus the seals. So it's usually $235. Do it every year. You know, you'll kind of get the feel for it. But
So you're saying the 100,000 then? Is
No,
Well,
we're
no, not
talking
yours.
We're
trailers.
talking about trailers.
Oh, trailers.
trailers.
This is all about
I'm adding I'm adding our trailer, my trailer
Okay.
family back there.
All right.
I'm trailer too, so.
the quiet people.
Yeah, the quiet. Right, not the noisy front.
No,
I've owned motorhomes too. I've owned motorhomes too, but yeah, trailers. We try to include, usually if we have a big 30, 40, 50 people, we ask what everybody has. So we kind of know how to explain different, you know. And usually what messes us up is we have 50 people and everybody there has towables for Class Cs, and there's one poor guy that just bought $1 million King Air. And nothing we're gonna talk about 80% of what we're gonna talk about is not gonna help him at all. So we have to kind of take him off to the side afterwards and say, okay, what questions do you have? Because it's that much of a different beast.
Yeah, he wasn't poor before he came on our line.
Yeah.
And why is it that this $1 million one
It's
doesn't
just the
have any
hydronic
problems?
heating, the hydronic heating.
Oh, it's got
Oh yeah, it's got hydronic heating, it's got computerized this, it's got computerized tank dumps and drains, and oh yeah, the new
I see.
King Airs you run with an iPad. So he still has to watch his seals and his tires and stuff, but as far as operation and day to day, completely different unit. Has a household refrigerator. It has.
What does
you
it do
know-
with its batteries?
What's that?
What does it do with its batteries?
Well, it's got very expensive
16 batteries.
16 batteries, all
AGMs.
AGM,
AGMs.
Yeah.
so there's no maintenance.
No
It's got a huge inverter converter charger,
Yeah.
two inverter converter chargers. So that's why I say when we go over a lot of it, we can explain it, but when we find somebody like that that comes to one of these, we've got to spend a little extra time with them, because if not, we get them. Or everybody here has motorhomes and there's one little lady that has a tent trailer. So we try to spread it out so we can help everybody.
And I hate tent trailers, so she doesn't get any attention from me.
What's wrong with the tent trailer?
There's been many warm nights I've spent in the tent. That's what I started in. My dad's old Coleman tent trailer that smelled like an old World War II tent. It was a real canvas. Yeah, you crank it, had a crank on the back, dead center, and you'd crank it and it sounded like it was just gonna collapse in any second. Then when you'd go to put it away, you'd hope it would go, yeah. You had a blast in that thing.
No, thank you.
Fun little, yeah.
Yeah,
You want to move on to appliances and tell them what
Sure.
we know?
you wanna talk about,
I'll start on with our spring tune-up. So,
okay.
if you bought a new coach, in all of that big stack of paperwork, there is a couple little points that are made. Your refrigerator and your water heater require annual maintenance to continue the warranty. So it's always a good idea to have your coach appliances cleaned once a year. We do, and I'm sure that a lot of other dealers do too, a tune-up. In the spring, we call it the spring tune-up. In the fall, we call it a fall tune-up. But basically what we do is we do an LP system test. And when you buy a coach, new or used, the seller is required by state law to do an LP test. If you bought something from us, we guarantee that we've 100% tested that system. If my house is gas, but it never really goes very far, so we don't have a lot of flex and twists. So homes don't tend to leak too often unless there's been an earthquake. In the RV, they obviously constantly moving, the propane systems are flexing, things are going on. Annually, it's a really good idea to check your propane system. In our spring tune-up, we do that. And if you just brought your coach in and said, hey, I want my LP system tested, we charge like $125. But in our spring tune-up, we do this, the LP system inspection, we do the appliances inspection, we do your plumbing, your electrical. We go through the coach and say, okay, we touched everything, this works, this doesn't, and this is okay, and this is a problem. And then you decide what you're going to do. But we do a LP system test. There are several different things you need to do. You need to make sure it's not leaking, but the other thing is you need to make sure that the regulator is delivering a true and consistent amount of pressure. And if you have your furnace on and 2 burners on because somebody's cooking, and all of a sudden the furnace shuts down because of low pressure, you kind of want to know that before you get into that situation. So once a year, have your coach inspect it. The next thing is you want to clean out the burners on your refrigerator and your water heater. And I love this thing. I recommend this to everybody. And Dave and I have hundreds of stories. This is for the water heater. You have a little round 15/16 or 1.125" plug in the bottom. And you take that plug out, and if you're standing there like this, you're going to get all the crap right on you. And I've seen, when I worked at his building, I was out there in the shop a lot, and I saw guys, if we're going to flush and work on a water heater, they always back the coach out because there'll be a fan as big as 10 feet for all of that. When they take it out, all of that crap that's laying in the bottom of that water heater gets spewed out, and it's usually white. And it's hard water deposits that are collecting in the bottom of the water heater. This little buggy, this works really good. After you stand back and admire this big alluvial fan of crap that came out of your water heater, you hook this to your hose and you stick it in that hole. And what it does is it blasts water inside the back of that tank, and it rinses it out and throws it back out right in front of you. And it cleans out that water heater really well. These are cheap, and it's something you need to do every year. If you did a spring tune-up, I know that we do this on water heaters. But the main thing is your LP system needs to have a test once a year. Yeah.
It pains me to say this, but you're right.
Okay, we're working out well here.
But I got one of those things at your recommendation, and my coach is fairly new, but I thought I'd rinse it out. I could not believe the amount of scale that came out of there.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you venture out of the valley very far, you're going to pick up some pretty nasty stuff. Yeah.
I actually forgot to bring it today, but I have a half-quart ball jar that one of my technicians saved me last week, and it's almost completely full. And that was out of one, and that was stuff that he had to actually, when he took the plug out, the water heater wouldn't drain. So he had to take a screwdriver, and it was it was packed full of that. So he had to take coat hangers in there and get it all slopped up to get that in there to get it washing. And then he swept it all up and put it in this jar for me, just to show it at seminars, and I forgot to grab it. Hello, how are you? Great. Having our seminar every second Saturday.
Look out, Larry! They're here for their delivery.
Nice.
So the last thing, I think we've pretty well done the interior and appliances and the water
What
system.
did you say the cost was for that spring tune?
You get like $100.
I think it's $99.95.
For a spring tuna?
Yeah, it's 2 hours worth of it. It takes us about 2 hours.
Yeah.
And you know as well as we do, it's the last one of those things like our marrying pay. Everybody gives you a deal. We're going to let you know everything's working. Majority of the time, everything's working, and we send you down the road. but we're also gonna let you know what's not working. And then we're gonna call you and say, hey, do you want this to work? If so, this is how much it's gonna cost. And, but it's really reasonable to have all that stuff checked.
I'm not familiar with that at all and doing that type of thing.
You're not
Does
familiar with the what?
That goes right on the hose,
And then goes into the,
right into that
Into
drain
the water
plug,
heater.
into the water heater. Then you turn it on and just
And it
move it back and
sprays it
forth.
around.
Yeah, you hook the
Yeah.
hose on,
Okay.
crank it all the way up, and then there's a little nozzle, so you take that drain plug out, and after it's settled down, you stand beside it, stick it in there, and it'll blast all of that stuff out.
If you start noticing
Turn the power on and let it rip.
weird smell in your hot water, when you're taking a shower, you get a little sulfury smell or bad smell. Sometimes it's not where you're staying, it's actually your water heater. A lot of people don't-
I've always used filters and stuff too, but
Yeah,
still that scale.
still.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize your house water heater. There's a
Same
reason
problem.
there's a faucet on the bottom of your water heater at home.
Yeah.
Once a year, you should take a garden hose, screw on that, run it out the backyard, and turn that water heater on, and you'll be surprised what comes out of your house water heater. Plus, longevity of your water heater at home will be a lot better if you get that junk out of there. I know this is an RV thing, but now I'm telling you how to fix the house
Yeah.
too.
I guess I'm a little confused about if you're putting a hose to this and you're putting water in, where's it coming out?
It's gonna come
Right,
back out
same
that
hole.
hole.
That same hole.
It's gonna come right back out at you. Because that hole is that big around. If you're gonna stick this thing in this big around to spray water in, as you're spraying, it's
Oh,
gonna be
you're not
coming right
putting
back
this
out.
on the spigot on the bottom?
No,
The
no.
tank.
I'm gonna walk up with a hose on this, and I'm gonna stick this in that hole.
In the hole of the water heater.
And it's gonna blast
In the
out the
plug.
whole
Yeah,
bottom of
so
the.
you're not gonna screw it on there. You're just gonna stick that in the hole, and the water's gonna come out that way.
That's gonna
Your drain
come out
hole.
the same.
Yeah.
It'll
Same
come
hole.
right
The
back
same-
out the
the-
same
That
hole.
screws
The
on
same
the end of the
hole.
hose.
That's why you don't wear your favorite tennis shoes while you're doing it.
Even on a warm day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why don't you talk about poop for a minute, and then I
Okay.
have one last thing to talk about. and then
Happy Camper. We always tout Happy Camper. I'm thinking someday the manufacturers of this that are in Oregon are going to come up here and buy Dan and I lunch, because we
Love that stuff.
go through a lot of this stuff. If you've never had it, it's the best toilet chemical
It's
you'll
the
ever
best,
need.
I'm telling
Do
you.
you guys use it, or have you heard of it?
We haven't even got our trailer out yet, so.
Okay. Good stuff. It takes the smell out.
Yeah.
So when you flush, you don't get that flowery poop smell. This takes a lot of the smell out. It really eats and digests what you have in there, the paper, the poop. Keeps your sensors clean. So when you push the little button, the best way to use it is to mix a scoop or two in a 5-gallon bucket or in your tank, in your toilet. Stir it up till it dissolves, and then flush it down in. Add a couple gallons of extra water so you have a little bit of a liquid base. So when you're doing what you do in the toilet, it doesn't just sit on that hard bottom. It actually has some liquid in there to kind of start dissolving it. Yeah, the only issue with it is if you insist on using antibacterial hand soap, it kills the bacteria in here. America, I say this to everyone. America has antibacterialed ourselves almost to death. We need to get some germs back in our systems. It's crazy that some third world countries are actually healthier than we are in a lot of ways, because they have hookworm and certain things that don't hurt your body that are okay to have.
Yeah.
And parents don't want their kids playing in the dirt.
Anymore. Yeah.
and-
And now we have to wash our hands after we do everything.
Right.
I mean, there's certain things we do we need to, but yeah.
Certain.
And now you can buy antibacterial hand soap and you name it. Or if you have cancer and you're on cancer fighting drugs, it will kill this also. I'm hoping nobody here is, but I just want to let you know it, because of the antibacterial stuff. Or if you're taking antibiotics for a cold, it can actually kill this. Once in a while ain't bad. But this stuff's really good, it's really inexpensive, and it works. So if happy campers listening, Dan and I want lunch.
So, have you ever used an RV before?
With my parents years ago. I mean, I've had lots of camping.
So they're gonna have a lot of questions when we say we're done and everybody gets up, they're gonna wander forward and say, what about this?
So
Which is fine.
I really want to emphasize what we're talking about here, and I'm surprised Dave didn't go into this because it's in his contract to talk about food.
I said poop 3 times.
So with this, when we get ready to go out, put some of this in right away.
Yeah, a couple gallons of water.
Let me tell you how I do it, and then he'll knock that down until he erects it. So, in the spring when I get ready, got a camp bucket. I throw a couple scoops in the bucket, fill it with water. The gate valves are closed. You know, it's empty. It's been empty. Open the pedal, dump it down the toilet. Now I've got 3 gallons of water and chemical in there, and it's going to stay in there for several weeks until I go camping. That enzyme will, the water will volatilize, it'll be vapor, you'll have chemical in that, and the enzymes latch on to any residual organic tissue or organic material or tissue paper. This enzyme will eat beta cellulose, which is toilet lube, and it will eat, digest, consume the organic material. Go camping, and he has thoughts about how often you should dump it. But if you're camping and you're using your toilet, at the base of the toilet, you're building a pyramid of organic material. And if you don't address that, he has stories. And it's a lot of money, and I guess now it's a toxic material, and
Yeah, it's actually human waste is
Biohazard.
biohazard.
there you go. So you have, at that point, if you have neglected to take care of your tank, you can get one of those honeypot people that come out and they'll actually suck up your tank, but it's really hard on the tank because they use vacuum in it. I've heard people say it almost collapses your tank. So, but that's better than $2,000 for him and his guys to go through it. But what you want to do is make sure you have plenty of water. Use however you want. When it gets close to full, 3/4 or better, I think, right? Dump it.
This is your story, you tell it.
Yeah, but you're the one that knows. So anyway, how I do it is I just use my bucket. And every time when I'm done, there may be a quarter in there, maybe a half. We dump. I dump a bucket down and it just rinses through the black and out the hose. I close my valves, fill the bucket with a scoop, dump it back down there. We may not go back out for 2 months, but it's laying in there, eating up any little residuals.
Okay.
That's the kind of right way to do it.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's a damn way.
That's how I.
Seth, how big is your black tank?
40.
Is it that big in there? Okay.
It's a star, so it's the same, yeah.
Okay.
So it's 80, 60, 40.
Yeah, 80, 60, 40.
So 80 fresh, 60 black, 40 gray.
60 gray.
60 gray.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have some that have 10-gallon black tanks. So that's the only ones I don't like Dan's whole,
Yeah.
put 4 gallons in a tank and dump it in. Because then you just put about half your black tank full of water. It all depends. I don't mess with a bucket. I know that my toilet bowl holds about 1.5 gallons. So I fill it up, put a scoop of that stuff in it, take my toilet brush, kind of give my toilet a little clean, swirl it around, flush the toilet. Then fill the toilet up again and flush it a second time. I know I got about 3 gallons in there and I don't have to worry about a bucket.
Just be careful when you put that powder in, that you put it low in the water
Yeah.
like he does, because otherwise it could come up and get in your nose.
And it's got a little burn if you get the little, if you get a little in your nose, it's a little burny. I mean, it's a chemical, but it's a safe chemical.
And you don't want to leave your black tank with water in it over the winter, unless you're going to be using it if it's stored, because it's going to,
A little bit isn't gonna hurt.
yeah.
A
But
little
you want to
bit's
put a
not.
little bit antifreeze in there, right?
You can if you want.
I do.
Usually, usually you dump some down your toilet if you're
Yeah,
doing your
exactly.
winterizing. But a little bit of water in there, because believe it or not, antifreeze, the RV antifreeze will freeze.
It doesn't expand.
It doesn't expand.
But it
Because we
freezes.
get people that'll come in, they're mad because their gallon of RV antifreeze they waited to put until today is frozen in the garage.
Oh,
Well, it will freeze, it doesn't expand like water. So, yeah, RV antifreeze is good. But if water expands in a black tank, if you got an 80-gallon black tank or a 40-gallon black tank and it's got a couple gallons in it, that 2 gallons will never get to the point where it's gonna rupture a black tank. It will grow up. Do you have anything more you wanna go over?
Yeah,
or
I
we
got
wanna?
a little bit of slide room maintenance. And then
Okay,
I'm
go
done.
over slide room maintenance.
So, people come to me all the time and they say, what do I put on the mechanism for my slide room? And my patent answer is, if you're my brother, I will beat your backside hard if you put anything on there. The truth of the matter is the manufacturer designs the slide rooms so they don't need a lot of lubrication. And the old rack and pinion units that we used to have, people put grease on them. Oh, it keeps it nice and quiet. But what it did is the grease attracted the road grit and the gravel, and it would just totally destroy the mechanisms. There are a few instances that do not apply to either of you, that a person might want to lubricate part of their slide room. Does not apply to you, so you can write it down, but don't.
I just crossed it off.
Yeah, because Newmar does an amazing job on their slides. And their slide assemblies, I guess once every 10 years you could grease the rollers in the guides, but that's about it. Most slides nowadays do not need lubrication. If there is something you need to lube, you need to use a dry lube. This is amazing stuff. This dry lube will, when it's dry, is not sticky at all, and it will stay on. I use this on my fifth wheel latch assembly because it doesn't attract grit. Once I spray it and it dries, it's on there, it doesn't attract grit and anything, it'll last for years. If you hear a squeak or a clunk or something, they do make noise. The only time you panic is when the room's like this or it won't move. Then we need to address that. But I wouldn't lubricate it. What I would do is you have white and bulb seals that maintain the integrity of the seal of the trailer. This stuff right here, this is made by Protectol. Really good stuff. You don't want to put it on your hotcakes, but it's really good. Anything rubber, it's really good. So you run your rooms about halfway in and you just spray all the way around your seal. It's like my wife is addicted to hand lotion. It's the same thing. It's really good for the rubber. It keeps it from cracking, ripping, tearing, getting hard. Keeps it supple. Really good stuff. Inside and out, just a little bit, just spray it over there.
How often?
I don't know, a
You
couple
do
times a year, I
A couple
guess.
times a year.
Yeah. But there's different brands out there, and I don't know, I don't want to be crass, but people that have an RV usually have a buck. So don't buy the cheap stuff. You didn't make it where you are buying the cheap stuff. And this is really good stuff, and it's not that much money. The Chinese stuff isn't that much cheaper.
And it'll last you years.
Yeah, good stuff. The third thing is, for everything else, and we sell this is made by Roadmaster. Everybody and his brother sells it, and I'm not promoting, this is a dry silicone lube. And they put RV in there because Roadmaster sells it. But it's a dry silicone lube. Anything that you want to lubricate, your entry lock, your steps, they have little pins, and that's where you want to lubricate them. A dry lube, you spray it on, it dries, Use it on anything. It doesn't react with plastics or metals. It doesn't etch, it doesn't corrode. When it's dry, it's a good lubricant. And it lasts a long time. And it doesn't attract grime or anything.
So bay door locks.
Bay door locks. You don't want to use graphite or anything like that because that clogs up the
Yeah.
tumblers. This stuff is very good for bay door locks, entry locks. You know, shoot a little on your coupler or do it.
And just about everybody has the Napa CarQuest, they all resell it. Everybody has a dry silicone lube.
Good
You can
stuff.
spray it on your finger and watch, it'll come out, then it evaporates, you can't even see anything. But then if you fill it, it's real slick.
It works good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, any other questions? I'm done. He may have more things, but I'm.
I do, we're getting generator. We need to buy a generator to add to the trailer. How big should I go?
So, the gentleman wants to buy a generator. What is it that you want to do with this?
We want it big enough that it'll turn, that we can run the air conditioner.
Okay, I was hoping you'd say, well, I just want to charge my batteries, and I talk about solar panels. Solar panels and inverters won't do an air conditioner. An air conditioner, you've got to have about 3,000 watts,
Okay.
and you need 20 amps. Now, there's a couple caveats there. When you plug your coach into a generator, you start that generator, the refrigerator says, oh, look, 110. And it turns off the gas and switches to the generator. And there's 6 amps. Your converter says, oh, look, power. I'm going to charge my batteries. There's another 6 amps. And so when you buy, Al-Qaeda sells Honda, we sell Yamaha, but they're the exact identical 2,000 watt generators. And you can bridge them because they're inverter, which means that when you bridge them, they match frequencies, so it looks like one generator at 4,000 watts. Actually, they're 3,600. But that's enough to run the air conditioner and not have to worry about going outside and plugging the refrigerator so it doesn't see the 110. Because if you just bought the minimum to do the air conditioner, you have to go and manually turn off everything else. Otherwise, as soon as that converter kicks on, it'll blow the breaker.
Okay.
So if you were my brother, I would say go buy 2 of these Yamahas or go to Al-Qaeda and buy 2 Hondas. They have the 2000 and the 2000 companion. They just plug in and it's beautiful.
Now, how often are you going to use it?
Not that often.
Okay, then I got another option, and let's talk about that at the end.
Okay.
But that's what I do. I do the second option.
And that is?
I got a $400 Champion Auto Start, 4,000 watt. I got a trailer, or my first fifth wheel had, my new fifth wheel, I put it in the front. But my old fifth wheel had a square bumper on the back. And they sell a receiver, you go to Harbor Freight, and they have a carrier that goes on the back, you mount it right on the back. If you want to use it 1 or 2 or 3 days a year, I automatically fire it up with the remote start. I go around, plug my fifth wheel into it, and it was $500 and done.
I
The
have
other
a bad
ones
taste
are-
in my mouth about the Champions, because I had one. I loved it. My daughter came over, well, this is probably 5 years ago now, and for some reason, I have a kegger, okay? It's a refrigerator keg of beer. I don't drink beer anymore, but I did back then. And so my son-in-law and I are standing out in the garage drinking a beer, and my daughter comes out, and she's looking at this generator. And she said, "Do you ever use that, Dad?" I said, "No, not really, but I like it." Well, we could use it. So that's what happened to my generator. But I had that same Champion. It was the 4500.
4,500.
Yeah, mine was the Armstrong. But,
Yeah, for 50
they
extra
are
bucks, you can
cheap,
get it.
and they're really good.
Yeah, if you're not going to run them for 30, 40 hours straight, day in and day out, they're exactly what they're built for.
How does this differ from what you were talking about?
Well, the one that I was going with what I would say more politically correct generator. These 2,000 watts, they weigh
Two
49
separate generators.
pounds. And yeah, you know, my wife's a little girl like here, and she can pick one up. They're very nice, high-end, but
How much are they a piece?
1,000 for the regular and 1,100 for the companion.
But they're quiet too.
They're quieter.
Yeah,
But
that's
then you have to hook them together and run two.
the noise factor.
So
So what
as little
you're
as I
saying-
run my generator, Champion just worked good for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so what again is the difference?
Well, the difference
Two
is...
different, you got two generators to one generator. You got
Okay,
$2,500 worth of generators compared to $500 worth of generators. You got
Okay.
quiet, a
Quiet
little bit
versus
noisier.
noisy. Okay.
These don't
All right.
auto start. This one you can auto start with a key fob. I mean, completely different animals, but two different options.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, when I use mine, it's mainly because, let's face it, I got a 36-foot fifth wheel. I don't take it usually up on log road, but last year we went to River Bend up above Sweet Home. Great campground. If anybody wants to camp, that's a great campground. Probably my favorite. But they had a car hit a tree in Lebanon, or so. There was power out for 2 days. The only people that sit around watching TV and enjoying the trip were, and people that had water, because even their well up there is on electric, were those of us that brought water, even though everybody says, oh, never take water, you're just hauling all the weight. Well, I always carry that weight because we took showers and had a great 3-day trip, and I ran my generator, and it was a little noisy. But you know what? The guy next door in his motorhome, who was running his generator, he never complained to me and I never complained to him because we were both just fine. But everybody that didn't have a generator, usually after the first night, they loaded up and went home. So yeah, there's good and bad. Just depends on.
I see, yeah.
When we go elk hunting, where we live in our big tent, my brother-in-law has a great big Honda 4000. You sit on top of it, not even know it's running. But he's got a little more expendable money than I do. So, hello Shane, nice haircut, buddy. Looking good. So, yeah, there's always options. to go.
Right, yeah.
And it depends on usage and what you want to spend. And you know, we buy those Champions for our road shows. We do we have a show this weekend in Salem. We'll be up there for 2 weeks. We'll be all over the place. And my service guys, we have 4 of those in our service trailer. And we pull them out, we start them up, they'll run 8 hours a day. You have to put a little oil in them every now and again. And for $350, because I think we get the little 4000s for $325.
Yeah,
If we get a year out of them, a couple, 300-400 hours, there's money well spent.
so, Champion, if you're listening, I need a new generator.
Yeah. Maybe they can come up and have lunch with Happy Camper and us.
There you go. I need a generator though. So, any other questions? Yeah, we're just starting to get you out here.
Yeah. Can't say anything. You did answer some questions with the battery, and that's,
Well, if you have anything, let us know. Call us and ask us.
it's Springdale.
32. We're just starting out.
One thing I will say is, I work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and if you stop and get one of my cards, part of my job is to answer the phones. And the girls get people calling in saying they want to talk about their water heater, that's my job. And so if you have questions, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, that's what I do. We try to keep the phones off a day because he's got 2 big, huge buildings to do, and he and I are the only ones that do the phones. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, we talk.
Okay.
That's what I do. Anything else?
Well,
Tell your
it's a pretty
friends.
easy one.
Tell them to come and watch
You know
this.
tell your friends. Bring them next time.
Bring people in
Let
here. I don't
everybody
wanna lose
know,
my
even if
job.
they didn't. Oh, and are we giving the Aggies here? Or the little receipt? Lorelai's gonna come up here and tell us about these eggs.
Yeah, baby, come on.
Daryl knows more about the eggs than I do.
Well, I know we give out the little handout slips.
Yeah, they're glued to the inside. See if I can get them apart. So what they're doing is they're starting,
If you want to collect these eggs, we have this good Aggie thing. So there's 12 different eggs. And if you come to the seminars, you get one of these eggs, and you can collect them in this little egg thing.
and it tells you ways that you can earn other eggs.
If you come in for seminars, or if you any of that.
Once you say you collect so many, then you get something, or?
No, they're just if you want to collect them for grandkids, or there's just 12 different little ones. One's smiling, one's Aggie, one's
A chicken hatching.
yeah.
One's a beaver. But you can stay a week in the park, you
You stay a
can
week in
do
the-
a test drive of a new vehicle, you can attend a seminar or a special event. And then once you've got your first one, if you're doing a little travel or something, just take a picture of it, post it on Facebook, and
We'll send you another one.
Then you get another one.
yeah, so there's lots of different ways you can do it. And then we'd also like to give you our new bags.
Dan, have a good one.
And get 10% off today if you decide to purchase anything. The bag is free.
Well, thank you.
Just a little thank you for coming in. That's all.
Okay, Dan had to run off to take care of something. He gave me I'm running off to take care of something. So thanks everybody for coming. If you have more questions, let us know.